I'm going to shout the corner for my favourite car, the Mini. Steve's going to shout for the Fiat 500, and Mark, who's come in his lovely chariot, is going to shout the corner for a Morgan. So tell us a bit about Fiat 500 and what you know. I mean, told us your history.
Well, my granddad used to sell these. He was
never.
Yeah, a Fiat dealer, one of the first in the UK. There's a fantastic picture of my mother. It was in the Manchester Evening News, and she's emerging from the sunroom
the open
on
roof.
a Fiat 500 like this. She's wearing long gloves. That's how long ago it was. And it says something like Christine Moore 17 enjoying her new imported Italian
That'd be an elegant photograph of that.
Well, look at it. It's motoring minimalism. It's transport for 4 people from A to B in its simplest form, and yet the design, it's so appealing, isn't it?
Car of the people, do you reckon?
It is. Yeah, very much so. I mean, I was a huge fan of Italian motor scooters, and at one point, you know, was the editor of Scootering magazine. And if you look at it as a 4-wheel Vespa, then that's what you're getting. And while some people might look inside and be appalled by the lack of amenities, that's what I find so attractive about it. The pressed steel dash,
I do now.
the simple vinyl seats. It's all so simple, but because it's Italian, so elegantly done.
Yeah.
The Italians are best. People, you know, obviously when you talk about Italy and cars, you think of Maserati, Ferrari, Lamborghini. But I've always believed that Fiat is the most interesting. Fiat is
by far
Italy, and Fiat has owned most of the Italian motor industry at one point.
I think they ran Italy at one point when you really look into it.
Yeah. And Agnelli's such an interesting guy, and the whole setup. And I find the elegance and the beauty of base, even not just cars or scooters, but Italian furniture, Italian architecture, Italian clothes. They can make something every day special.
Yeah. I understand that.
In a way that I don't think any other European, and that's why I've always had a passion for Italian cars, as you know, Lancias and Alfas.
I love them.
I love
look at the wheels. I mean, look at the wheels on this. Look at the style of them for what you call a city car. Look at that.
Exactly. But it's an attempt to do it, we know, as cheaply and simply as possible.
Yeah.
But look how stylish it's still.
It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean,
isn't it great?
look at the soft top. I mean, everybody thought, fantastic, it got a soft top. The only reason it had a soft top was it saved X amount of metal per car.
Yeah, I get that.
And when Giacosa designed this, I mean, phenomenal. But a little bit like back to what we were talking about in there. One of the theories is that when people start buying cars again, they'll be looking for the minimalist, the one that's the best value for money. And this, back in its day, represented phenomenal value for money.
If you're getting one of these that's got the Abarth engine in it,
Which I have driven one with the Abarth engine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're insane, really.
They're terrifying. Because
they're a terrifying car. If you look at that as a car, when you look at today's NCAP safety and you actually look at that, how would you ever get in it? But it's fabulous.
In the same way that if you're in an English pub in San Francisco, there'll be a great big picture on the wall, and it'll be a red bus and a black taxi going past the Palace of Westminster. And they'll go, England.
It's very English.
You know, in the same way that if you're in a bistro in Tokyo, there'll be a Citroen DS parked underneath the Eiffel Tower. If you're in an Italian restaurant, there's no such thing as Italian cuisine is diverse. The stuff you'll get in the Alps is utterly different to the stuff you'll get in Sicily or wherever. But anyway, if you're in an Italian restaurant anywhere in the world, on the wall will be a picture of a Vespa leaning up against the wall and two blokes in one of these, wolf whistling a girl. Going past in a Cinquecento.
A Cinquecento.
Well, car names always sound better in Italian, don't they? Quattroporte.
I was just going to say, a mate of mine once said, what does quattroporte mean? I said, 4-door.
I'd buy that if you told me that with a Cinquecento. I'd have to have that in my stable.
The one thing you can't do is you can't take on something like this thinking it's remotely like a modern car.
Oh, no.
You can't. Some people think they're so cute. I remember when I lived in London, there was I lived near the Arsenal ground, and I did an overnight radio show on Talksport, and I didn't drive, I used to cycle to the studio and back because it was uphill all the way back up to Highbury, and by the time I got home I was ready to sleep, whereas if I drove I was so keyed up.
I understand that.
I used to cycle past the prison, and opposite the jail was a specialist who dealt in these cars. And I've subsequently found out that a friend of mine had something to do with him and saying, yeah, he had a really high turnover of cars, that guy, because he was in London. So a lot of hipsters that think, yeah, I'll get one of these Fiat Cinquecentos, and I'll drive round in it, and it'll be just like being in an old sort of, Italian film with Jean-Paul. I'll be like Jean-Paul Belmondo or Alan Delon in the Fiat 500. Then the reality of driving one of these cars, and they brought it back. Mind you, somebody told me a similar story about a very famous British comedy actor, Rowan Atkinson, and who bought a Lancia Stratos to use as an everyday car. That didn't last.
It's not. That ain't happening. I've driven a few Stratos. I love them, but they're not everyday cars.
I just love being sat at the left-hand side with my feet over the right-hand side.
Well, that's Fiats. When you're about Fiats and Lancias and stuff, that's the thing. When you get in an Italian car, you never sort of like this, are you? You're always a bit. You're always a bit like.
Thing. I think they're awful.
You just don't sort of. It's like we're completely different shape to the Italians.
No, I'm Italian shape. Look at me, I'm taller. I'm the tallest one. I'm 5'10".
Yeah.
But
you got my legs.
30 inside leg. I'm on somebody else's legs. So the sort of the crouched ape position is perfect for me. It's
got the Italian gangster look, hasn't it?
But if you think a Mini is an original Mini, a real Mini, is a decent day-to-day driver, it's not.
No, it's not. No, we were on about this earlier. No, they're not.
Try a 500. You'll soon be scurrying back. What you've got to get in the right mindset.
Yeah.
This is the car for. It's a beautiful Tuesday. For some reason, you don't have to work.
Get the roof back.
You get the roof exactly, Andy. You get the roof back. You get the picnic basket on the back.
Like this one.
With a nice bit of pâté, a bit of Stilton. Maybe a few bottles of Moretti, something like that in there. A nice Asti Spumante, and you go somewhere nice that isn't too far away.
That's right, yeah.
And that would be great.
And you've had an adventure. It's the adventure of the car, not the car.
You get on the M6 in one of these on a Friday night in winter.
I'd love to.
Seriously worried.
I'd love to.
But the one thing I will say is, I mean, you're going to champion the Mini.
Oh, definitely champion the Mini. You're nowhere near a Mini yet.
Fiat.
This is what I can't get. You're nowhere near the Mini yet.
Fiat,
it's a four-wheel scooter.
Fiat have gone retro and they brought the new 500 back. To my mind, the new Fiat 500 is a lot closer to this than the new Mini is to the original Mini.
Does it serve the same market? Is it doing the same thing for the same kind of person that this did in its time?
Yeah, you've got.
I will say yes.
That's
the new Fiat 500 serves. I mean, the number of, shall we say, young girls that love the Fiat 500, and they all live in city commuting cars, which this was. So in many ways, it does serve the same market. Okay, it's a far newer market than this little car.
And I love the colour palette that Fiat use with colour.
Yeah, well, that's incredible.
Ochre.
That's incredible. It's incredible.
Lambretta painted the Jeep Lambretta Jeep. Turquoise, lime green.
Yeah.
The Italian colour palette is so much more interesting than any.
But they've done it with the new 500. They've sort of done that pastel colour thing.
Not quite. They haven't gone as far. They haven't
done this, have they?
No. But I mean, you look at everyone. I mean, this has great little wheels. The new one, which is the most popular one, it's the modern 500 with the white steel wheels and hubcaps.
Yeah.
That was a marketing genius.
Yeah.
To have something modern but look retro, to drag it back to this was marketing genius.
Yeah.
And again, you've touched on it about, and that's really interesting because people come to me all the time about the Mini, and I run, because of my attachment with BMW, I run a modern Mini, and I usually get, oh well, it's not a classic Mini, but my Mini is catering for the market that the original Mini catered for in period.
Yeah.
We're in a different era, a different time, as we said earlier on, and the modern Mini is every bit as good now as the Mini war in its period.
Shame it's so bloody ugly.
Wait till we get to the Morgan. Right, well, I've just listened to a load about the Fiat 500 and it doesn't even come close to the Mini, I'm telling you. The heroes in my life are Alex Isagonis and John Cooper. Isagonis because he brought out the lovely Mini in 1959, and John Cooper because he took it from being a normal, everyday car into the car that I adore, the Cooper S.
Which Alex Isagonis didn't want him to do.
They
told him not to do.
They didn't want to know, but look at what it did for the Mini. Because every time they stopped using Cooper or Cooper S in the tag, it became a GT and then it dropped off the radar. It sort of detracted the Mini a little bit from everybody in the street. And then you got John Cooper came up with the golden, let's do the Mini Cooper again back in 1989-90 when he did his little kits with his Minis, and the Japanese absolutely flooded for them. And Rover, as it was then, said, well, we'll make 1,000, but I'm not sure they're going to sell. And they sold like hotcakes and they were off again. The beauty of the Mini that I find is that I can go anywhere in a Mini. You know, you're on about your Fiat 500 and your lovely little Italian girl and the picnic camper and all that lot. I can go to Buckingham Palace in my little minivan.
Do you know the only other car you can do that in? Go on, Land Rover.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. Minis and Land Rovers, you could turn up anywhere.
I mean, they're classless, so that's not in the wrong way of meaning it.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
Anybody drives.
Inoffensive. These are inoffensive.
The point was, with Isagonis, was that this was truly, never mind your VW, this truly was the people's car. Straight away, people tried to turn it into something else. They say, oh, it was classless, but when you think of famous Mini owners, you think of Viscount Linley, Peter Sellers,
The Beatles.
Yeah.
And look at what they did to Minis. Think of another car on the market where you'd go buy a car and then you'd go spend E-type money making that car look completely different.
Well, I mean, one car that springs to mind, a modern car, is the Vauxhall Adam.
Yeah.
You bought an Adam and then you got this vast array of what you could have fitted to it to make it individual to you, and that's what they did with Mini. You could turn a standard Mini into something incredibly
But
individual,
you know who started
even
that?
by just putting a sticker on the side.
BMW started that type of marketing where you bought a product and it were that much money.
Yeah.
And then your options list
Well,
made it that much money.
I think you'll find that Harley Davidson
Oh!
have cornered the market. I mean, I've got
The old hardly dangerous.
got a guest on my radio show, Steve's Speed Shop, today, the very day that we're here, and he was saying Harleys are great bikes as long as you realise that you have to throw 90% of it away.
Yeah.
And then recreate it, he said, but it's the 10% of Harley that remains that makes it so special.
Yeah, but that's the Mini.
Yes.
The stuff I mean, look at this
No,
we got here.
no, because I think, again, controversial opinion, I think a bog standard 850 with rubber mats and sliding windows and vinyl seats is better than a Cooper S.
Ooh.
It's more Mini. It's more Mini. It's truer.
It's how the Mini was meant to be.
It's true, exactly, Mark.
No, I get that.
Truer to
I get where you're
Alexis
coming from.
Isagonis' design.
But I come from the mindset and the upbringing that I'd go spend a load of my hard-earned cash and do this. So I'd put the uprated engine in, I'd put the Mini light wheels on it, I'd have the fancy seats and the rev counter, and I'd go watch Harewood Hill Climb, or I'd go to Silverstone in it, or we'd go, in my day, watching historic rallying out on the back lanes, road rallying. And you'd go out at 10, 11 o'clock at night where all my mates were going to nightclubs and dealing with girls, and I were back at Yorkshire Moors watching road rallying until 3 or 4 in the morning.
Does this not tell you something about yourself?
There's something wrong with me, I think.
There's something wrong with you.
So that is my champion for the Mini. I mean, compared to that thing out there, these are unbelievable.
There is something about a Mini. There really
Honestly,
is something about
and because we're at my environment, the amount of people who come in and say, this is what happened with me with a Mini. Met the wife, conceived the children, had the pets in it, minivans, they did the farm in the building.
You could hire this out, given the current laws, providing you wear a mask. You'll be able to hire this out now, won't you?
That's what we're trying to do, that's the idea of this. But everybody in life has got a story about a Mini.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh!
My dad.
Is it clean?
It might be. So I've had a couple myself, but when I was about, our first car was a Mini. Because of course the thing is, when people speak to you about your journey into cars, they assume that they assume a certain level of income and of access to resources. And I think people would be quite surprised when you tell them that as a family you didn't own a car until we didn't own a car until I was 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly. We were the same.
I was brought up on a terrace street in Bury, Lancashire, Coronation Street style houses, 2 up, 2 down. You walk straight out, onto the street. And my dad got a Countryman.
Wow.
With the wood.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's funny that if you talk to the youngsters now, like we were on about earlier, is I had the same. My dad didn't have a car. I used to love cars even before my dad had a car. And you go out there and the neighbours had a Hillman Imp, or they had an Avenger, and my dad got a Land Crab, a Morris 1800, and we'd arrived. And as far as I were concerned, I used to sit, you're going to love this story, I used to sit in the car making car noises at 13 and cleaning it for it. And I were changing gear outside at street because we got a car. I were able to go to school and tell my mates, my dad's got a car. Well, you wouldn't get that now, would you?
No.
Because people have got 3 or 4 in a household now, and it's fascinating, is that story. Have you got a story like that though, Wick?
I can remember the first, once again, similar, when I was a kid, my dad had a Morris Oxford. The same Morris Oxford that was still, I think, is now the Hindustani.
Oh, right. Yes.
And I can remember as a kid sitting on the central armrest on the front bench seat. And that was my seat in the car. Fortunately, I don't think we ever hit anything, otherwise I'd have been straight through the windscreen.
Yeah, can you imagine?
My daughter told me one of those stories the other day, and it was when we were expecting a happy event. My missus told me that the Alfa Romeo had to go, and I had to get sensible. I had to get a family car. She said to me, "We need a family car." So I brought it home, and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "There's just 2 problems with it. It's not a family car. It's not a car." It was a 1958 Ford pickup truck, stake bed pickup truck, with a bench seat out of a Cadillac fitted in it, 3 on the tree, and the front clip out of a Camaro Z28 fitted in it. And I didn't think my daughter, and we had it for a while, I didn't think it had made any impression on her at all.
They do make impression.
And she said that one of her strongest memories was of sitting in the child seat, which had attached to the bench seat, in between me and my ex-wife, but let's not go there. In between the 2 of us, and thundering down the road in this mighty, deadly device that.
And don't you like the fact she's got that memory?
Yeah, I do. But
that's what cars do to people. This is what we tried to say earlier about classic cars.
Yeah,
but that cars bring these sort of emotions out in people.
But is it rose tinted?
It is rose tinted.
If you actually go back, right, I'll tell you a story about that, a quick one. A pal of mine who's done very well for himself and has a very nice modern Audi, top of the range Audi, and a 4-wheel drive for his hunting, shooting and fishing activities, decided he was going to go back and get his first car again. He's going to recapture his youth, he's going to get his first car, but unlike his first car back in the day, it wasn't going to be clapped out and knackered with holes in the floor. He was going to get an absolute minter. So he went and bought a fully restored Morris Traveller. He drove it twice.
Yeah, horrendous. I get that.
He said it was dangerously slow.
Yeah.
He said if he was even on, never mind the motorway, and I'm not having to go. My motley collection of cars, as you know, I'm not sure if you're fully up to speed, Mark. My modern is a 17-year-old Jag, but I mainly drive a 1984 Citroen CX.
Yeah.
And I consider that to be pretty damn modern, because if you go back to the other stuff I've got a 69 Scimitar and a 71 Alpha. So I'm hardly a benchmark for what feels modern. But if you put most people who've got a mini tea towel and a mini mug at home, and they might have a mini phone case on their iPhone, if you said to them, use a Mini as your everyday car,
can't use them every day.
They wouldn't last
I must confess, I drove a Morris 1000 Traveller for one of the classic car magazines I used to write for, and it was in Cheshire. And I drove about 5-6 miles in it. And by the time I got back, I got out of it thinking, what the hell do people actually see in these? As you said, it was horrendously slow.
I'll tell you.
It didn't stop.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the car that I consider to be that you can go the furthest back and it feels modern, the E34 BMW 5 Series.
Yeah, I get that. Mark 1 Golf GTIs. I think that area where you can still have a classic car and you can still use it in some sort of normal usage.
So it's got to have aircon, and it's got to have fuel injection, and it's got to have electric windows,
and it's got to work.
And it's got to work. It's got to start.
Yeah, you've got it. That's
the
what
other
you
one
need.
is, but they can be an absolute bottomless pit for consuming money. Porsche 928.
Yeah.
When I've driven those, they are still. I think they're still modern looking.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're great.
I think
they drive and handle and go like a modern car. In fact, better than a lot of modern cars.
I mean, that CX that I've got, I hate to harp on about it, but I will. I think that looks more modern than the majority of cars that are made now. And yet that design goes back to the 1970s. I think a lot of cars, the 928, like you've just said, Mark, the Citroen, the Subaru SVX, they look more modern than a lot of cars do. A lot of cars now are really trying to look retro. We were talking about the Vignale with the huge grille on the front, like a sort of 1930s Art Deco almost.
On a modern car.
And yet in the 70s with the 928 and the Citroen CX, they were boldly looking towards the future, weren't they? The future seemed like an exciting place to go.
Like a movie.
Now that cars are incredibly sophisticated, the look, as with the Fiat 500 and the Mini, the retro look in 2020 is very much in, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is,
As long as it doesn't come with a retro. I mean, just things like when you try things like these, they don't work. They don't work.
Let's try them on the Fiat.
They don't work.
Mine has 3 and they don't work.
These don't work. And when you switch these things on,
what are them?
It's like you've just lit two Yankee candles, isn't it?
But we put up with it in period, didn't we? And now I'm guilty of it. I get in modern cars now when I get in a Mini, and I think, what am I doing? But they're here.
I'll tell you what, in defence of Steve though, and he had to sell it a couple of years ago because he's getting on and he needed a car easier to drive, did he? And a friend of mine drove a Citroen CX Safari. And he loved it to bits, and when we used to go out in it, phenomenal thing. And this was a guy who used to own a collection of X-Works 911s, but his chosen car was, and still is, Citroen.
Well, in that like the horse racing era, didn't they use them for horse racing when
they were the DS? They were the DS.
They used to follow the horses round and they just floated along rough ground.
Here's where it comes back to what we're talking about, and specifically the Mini. You've got the 3 generations of those big hydro-pneumatically suspended Citroens. The XM, the most modern of the 3, the CX in the middle, from the kind of 70s to the late 80s, and before that the DS. And the DS is the poster child, isn't it?
Oh,
the DS,
beautiful car.
Yes, but here's my point. I've driven all 3, quite a lot of all 3, and I've owned a lot of XMs, and I thought I was going to skip the CX and go and get myself a DS. And I drove a couple of DS's, and I found them incredibly antique compared to the XM. And a friend said, what you need to do is go in the
bang in the middle.
Bang in the middle. And I drove a CX and I thought, I love the DS, the design of it. It's apart from this, Andy Harrison, you're right. Apart from this, which is truthfully the greatest car of all time and the most innovative car of all time, a close second is the DS. But you can't really use it.
You can't. But these are the same. I'm right on that wavelength.
Do you know what one of the biggest problems? Do you know one of the biggest problems with using old cars? And it's only if you do it day to day. See it out of the things.
Yeah.
The windows are always misted up.
Yeah.
What's all that about?
Yeah. They're incredibly hot.
When did that get sorted?
I don't think it ever did.
It's really hard to see to drive when you can't see out the car.
It's frustrating.
And that's the biggest problem I have with that CX.
Yeah, you can't use them every day. So now I've championed the Mini, and we've heard about the Fiat 500, but I think we've still got the Mini. We're now going to move to Mark's Morgan. Unfortunately, in this garage we've got two. We've got the V8 4 litre, and we've got Mark's Pride and Joy over here. So we're going to let you have a bit of a shout about the Morgan.
Right. This is my Pride and Joy, 2003. But it's a 70.
What year?
2003.
Really?
Yeah. It's a 70-odd-year-old design. I mean, you've got to be eccentric to want one.
Did they still have wood?
They still has an ash frame.
I'm with LJK set right. Do you remember, he once said wood is the most unreliable material.
But he liked Bristols.
He did, so do I.
He found the cars as well.
And motorbikes.
The one thing about them is it is still a vintage car.
Yeah.
Now, the Fiat, the one thing about the Fiat, the one thing about the Mini that they have in common with the Morgan, these are evolving to drive. It's not a modern car. You climb in it and you're driving a vintage car. Okay, you've got modern shocks on the back. Some guy actually fit build styles to the back of this. It's got sliding pillar front suspension.
Yeah, sliding pillar. Was that Lancia's original?
I think it was. You know.
If you drive over a 50p, you know whether it's heads or tails.
And you stop and pick it up.
I stop and pick it up. Yeah. I have to beat a Yorkshireman to it. But yeah, they are an eccentric car. It is still a vintage car to drive. Under the bonnet of this, it's a 1.8 Ford Z-Tech. So basically, it's a Ford Focus under its bonnet. But
there's a great tradition though in this country of using. I mean, if anybody dares to disparage the sort of the motor that's underneath the hood of a car, I always remind them of the motors that Lotus used to use.
Yeah.
That is proper parts bins, isn't it?
I mean, these have had Ford Kent engines. They've had engines out of Rover 216s.
Yeah.
They've had Fiat twin cams. The
V8's too much in this, isn't it?
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, there's the one thing about the V8. I mean, there's that glorious 4-litre V8 there, the wide-bodied version. When you start it up, the noise is awesome. This cannot compare exhaust note-wise to that.
It's not as pretty.
Be a nicer drive.
That one's not as pretty as this one, I don't think.
And this is a nicer drive. You said it earlier that you can potter around in this in 4th and 5th gear. You can be doing 40, 50 mile an hour.
Yeah.
This car, to be fair, you have to be driving quickly.
Yeah.
It's really involving in a different
people who
way.
say to me, I mean, the one thing about, I've never owned a car where as many people want to come and talk to you about it, but like the Fiat and the
Hold
Mini.
on, he's like one of those blokes who buy a Labrador Retriever and take it to parks in the middle class part of town, thinking that they're going to be able to talk to women.
But they're not offensive. Like the Fiat and the Mini, these are not an offensive car.
All three cars have one thing in common. People let you out of junctions
and smile.
Smile at you.
If you're in a Ferrari, they spit.
Yeah.
They open the window.
I'll tell you what the worst one, the Range Rover Evoque, if you want to get Tret like dog crud, drive a Range Rover Evoque.
You can't drive them now, can you? You can't drive them. You can't drive that vehicle.
They are terrible.
You'll have no hassle with this car driving in any environment.
No.
School run, shop run, going to the coast. Everybody will be happy that you're driving that car. Along with the Fiat and the Mini, you have no problem.
I mean, the one thing that's wrong with this, as Steve's pointed out, because the brand new ones in my conservatory waiting to be fitted, it's no bonnet strap. It has a beautiful leather bonnet strap waiting to be fitted, but we haven't got that.
Hold on. You're missing some at the front as well.
Oh, you mean the I'm a big toy badge bar on the front?
Well, I'll show you one of them.
Oh, here we are.
Oh, and I also need the headlight meshes and everything else. And it's got this. Oh no, it's got Lucas fitted to it. It should have a pair of CBA Oscars.
Oh, here we go. Have you got a notepad and pen?
I went to the Morgan factory, which is in the Shire in the Hobbit, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we went out in one of the cars, very similar to this one. And at one point, our progress was impeded by a herd of sheep that emerged from a church. There was a church, and all of a sudden all these sheep came pouring out, followed by a man who said, "Very sorry about this, they come in every week to eat the flowers."
Really?
Like this. And
That's incredible.
I thought, This, and sat in a Morgan while this happened right in front of me, I thought, this could only happen in Britain.
Yeah, very English.
It could only happen here.
A very English thing happening.
That you failed to proceed in your motor car because the livestock was going into the church.
And it don't bother you.
No one was
don't bother you at all, does it?
Everyone was like, oh, yes, absolutely. You can't drive one of these and not have a smile on your face.
No.
Even when you're waiting for the breakdown truck to come and collect you. And the buffeting from that flat windscreen.
Well, that's the one thing. I mean,
and what about the wipers?
Yes.
What's that all about? I'd have to use an handkerchief over the top. I think it'd be more effective.
Didn't E-Types have 4 at one point?
I think they went that far. I've seen some MGs with 3 on, like these Morgans.
but no, it's like Steve said. The one thing is, people aren't offended by a Morgan. It's a British sports car. Even though it's modern running gear underneath it, it is still visually and externally.
You know the
it's
problem
a
with yours,
quintessential. What? It's got too small an engine and no body strap.
No, it's got too many wheels. I love the
three-wheeler.
Yeah, but they stopped making them apparently.
Oh.
Have they?
Yeah.
But I can see you in a 3-wheeler.
My missus loves them as well.
I can see you in that.
Because of course they got a motorbike engine in the front.
Yeah.
No.
The only problem was my better half, when I suggested a 3-wheeler, was somewhat alarmed about the fact they don't have a roof. It doesn't come with. You can't even get one.
Well, people would often say with a car, "Oh, you'll like this. It's like a 4-wheel motorbike." And I'd say, "You don't really understand motorbikes. The closest to a 3-wheel motorbike is that Morgan." And those Morgans competed against motorbikes and sidecars.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they still do VSCC events. They still do compete because they're a cycle car.
I think the one that they made, I don't know with Morgan. I think their sort of adventures or their diversion into building sort of supercar baiting stuff was.
Well, the air rolls were in the headlights. Look at one.
It's been a bit ill-advised. It's kind of, you do a certain thing and you do it
well,
better than anyone else in the world. Why not stick with that?
Why would you change the format of people queuing to buy these and bring out them supercars, like you say, the aero with the fat funny lights, and sort of detract from this market? They were doing so well at this market that this is the market they're shopping. That's their clientele. That's their market. They should have stopped there. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the aero and I like the Aero Max, but I just like it for being a bit quirky. This is what they should have stuck at, and the 3-wheeler. I thought it were a marketing genius when they brought that 3-wheeler out. Yeah,
and it was such fun to drive.
Yeah,
and you know, like you were saying, one of the best things about this sounds a bit awkward and a bit falsy for 2 Lancastrians and a Yorkshireman, but it was every time I drove one of the 3-wheelers, it was other people's reactions.
Oh yeah, get that.
Do you know what the worst reaction I've had from people driving a road car? The Lotus 111.
Really?
Do you remember that thing that they built recently?
Yeah, we're all like...
Yeah, with a giant wing on the back. Super aggressive. Yeah. It was almost like driving a V sign. It was almost like you were going like that.
And speed cameras.
Nobody did it. Look at him, thinking he's the big I am with a great big wing. When you're in something like this, it's other people's reactions to it that's a big part of the fun of driving it, because they get a big kick out of it.
I think it's best summed up in when you're out in, okay, this is the 4 litre, this has plenty of power, but you go out in mine, you go out in the Mini and you go out in the Fiat, you've nothing to prove. No matter what pulls up next to you at a set of traffic lights, it's not going to outdo you, because you're driving a car.
Your driving changes.
That's nothing to prove.
You're out of the game.
You're just in your own little world.
Yeah.
That's what to be fair, that's what I like about classics. I love performance. I've watched all sorts of TV programs and car magazines all my life, and I love performance cars. But I do like potting around in an old car or an old sports car, not worrying about speed limits, not worrying about what anybody else is thinking when they're driving it. I love that environment.
Well, a set of traffic lights. You pull up at the set of traffic lights in my +4, that Fiat, or one of your Minis. Somebody sit in the minivan, one of the ordinary Minis. Somebody pulls up next to you in an Audi A6 or the R8. And they set off and they give it 11s for 100 yards.
Yeah.
People don't look at the Audi and think, look at that. They look at what you're in, look at the Audi and think, what a plonker.
Yeah, but you have to make that journey that we all have.
Yeah,
you have to have been that guy in the 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
I've done it. Like, the back tyres.
Like that, with handbrake and lights and not even wanting to look at the other driver. Your peripheral vision's going.
Do you know what? I was in Shropshire yesterday, and I was waiting to turn out of a junction, and this guy came bowling up the road, white-haired gentleman, looking pretty stylish, nice shades on. Do you know what he looked so cool? Do you know what he was driving? A Willis Jeep.
Really?
Yeah, with the screen folded flat.
He's won the game.
No doors.
Yeah.
He just looked like, I don't need to try.
Steve McQueen. It's like a Steve McQueen moment.
I tell you what, he was at least 70 years old, but it was like white hair, but he cool looking guy, and he was like, looking at him, you thought, he's been there, he's done it. He probably didn't buy the t-shirt, he probably sold the t-shirt to everybody else.
Yeah, that's right, I get that.
And I thought, yeah, you're right, mate. I can't think of a better car on a sunny day. It was a beautiful sunny day, unlike today. It was a beautiful sunny day. I thought, I can't think of a better car to be in right now than that Willis Jeep.
Yeah, I agree. Right, I think we shouted for all three cars, and I'm definitely taking the Mini as the winner, but that's up to you two. What I want to say, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'd really like to say thanks to Steve Berry and Mark Stone for coming over and making this effort, and hopefully making a programme that you've enjoyed.